Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. The Secretary did a phenomenal job of outlining the program, and I'm so happy to hear that the administration is moving quickly on implementing the provisions of this legislation. So we're actually ready to go, by the fall semester in 2020. As many of you know, early on in my career, I had the opportunity to begin to work with the Foster Parent Association in the state of Pennsylvania. Matter of fact, my constituent and good friend, Gary Krentz, who we'll be hearing from in a few minutes, came to me with a number of other foster parents and identified some problems in the foster care system in Pennsylvania. So we began to work on some legislation, and in 2005, we actually put into place a bill to ensure that foster parents and foster kids in Pennsylvania got the kind of supports that they needed, and that they were more streamlined and consistent, throughout the state of Pennsylvania. So we were fortunate to have that bill signed into law, and then we began working on something else, a bill to deal with making the home life of foster kids more like that of children who lived in traditional biological family homes, and we called that our Activities and Experiences for Children in Out-of-Placement Act. Took a while to get through, as most good things do, and we were fortunate to have that signed into law in 2015. During that time, they came to the legislature with another idea, and that was to provide higher education opportunities for children in foster care. And I don't need to go back through the statistics that the Secretary went through, but the number of foster kids who actually enroll in higher education is extremely small. And of course, those who graduate, it's a much smaller number, 10% or so, that actually even go to school. So we put together some legislation, I hate to say this, about a dozen years ago, to begin this process. And at that time, we're one of the few states that actually had a bill. Unfortunately, the bill languished in committee for a number of years, and last session, when I chaired the Education Committee, we held an informational meeting. We got the bill out of committee. Obviously, along the lines, we had to make a number of tweaks to the bill. And there's no perfect legislation in this building. We're willing to compromise. And fortunately, we got the bill, as the Secretary said, signed into law in June of this year. So for the first time in Pennsylvania, foster kids who I think we can all agree have been dealt a pretty bad hand in life are going to be able to access, higher educational opportunities and not have to worry about the cost. It's really been a humbling experience to be able to champion this bill. I can't tell you how many folks have come together, stakeholders, people from higher education, foster kids, to make this bill a reality. And something that's truly going to change the lives of children in Pennsylvania. As a legislator, we pass a lot of bills, but rarely at the end of the day can you go home and look at your wife and family and say, we did something today that for years, decades to come, is really going to change the lives of kids, for better in the state of Pennsylvania. So I want to thank everybody that came together. I want to call out, a staff person who worked very closely with us on this bill, Christine Seitz, who put her heart and soul into this bill as a research analyst on the Education Committee for the last couple sessions. I know this bill means as much to her, and staff are obviously very important in getting these things done. The institutions of higher learning came together. Many of them had some concerns initially. We tried to address many of those, but at the end of the day, they're partnering with us, and we needed them to be able to make this happen. It's important to note that there are no new appropriations attached to this bill. how often in this building do we create a new program without an appropriation? We've asked and they've agreed. Higher education has come to the table and they're going to absorb these costs. Once these kids get, whatever grants they're eligible for, higher education is going to pick up the cost without a new appropriation from the General Assembly. That almost never happens here. So thank you to them for that. 12 years is a long time, but, sometimes good things take time. And I have to admit I didn't expect it would take this long, but I'm glad that we got it done. So thanks to all my colleagues in the General Assembly for getting this done. And at the end of the day, we certainly can't replace parents. But this new law will certainly greatly reduce the barriers that foster kids have faced for years and years and decades to higher education. So looking forward to good things happening here starting in the fall of next year. So thank you very much. And at that, I'll introduce my strong working partner from last session on the Education Committee, Jim Roebuck, who was just as enthusiastic as I was when I went to him and said, Jim, I'd like to move this bill. Extremely supportive, made sure that he answered all the questions on the other side of the aisle. And I'm proud that last session we got this bill out of committee unanimously, got it through the House unanimously, and we were on that same path this year. But of course, we were able to get it incorporated into the Education Code Bill, and we got it done a lot more quickly that way. And I think we made a good decision to do it that way. So at this point, I'll introduce my good friend, Chairman of the Education Committee on the Democrat side, Jim Roebuck.